Here I have a box containing 13 questionable locomotives that I bought from eBay. At least I think it contains these things. Who knows, it could be filled with screwdrivers. We have to get into this thing and see first. Before I dive in, there's actually quite a few things that make this questionable. First of all, there was only 2 photos of this entire lot on eBay, which is kind of strange. There was no photos of the undersides. The listing claimed that a few of these were dummies, but most were powered. I wasn't given any exact number. I've got my own estimations from the pictures. In shipping, the box got delayed a considerable amount of time, not from the shipper or anything, but just from the mail service. And then when I got it here, it's got this pretty big gaping hole right here. I don't think it's big enough for a locomotive to escape out of. Again, it feels like it has the weight of 13 locomotives in here, but who knows, it could still just contain screwdrivers. So let's get into this box. Now that it's open, I'm just going to start digging through this thing until I find locomotives one by one. And there's definitely a ton of packing peanuts in here. So here we have an Athearn band drive Hustler. That's kind of neat. I haven't worked on one of those in a long time. Then here we have, I think this is an AHM Alco. I think it's an S2. I'm not sure off the top of my head. I know it's some sort of Alco S-series switcher, but this thing actually looks really nice. The front of the long hood is out of place, so that needs to be fixed, but it's got Katie's and everything. The mounting of this front coupler looks pretty questionable, but we can come back to that. So right here, it looks like we have most of, I believe, a Mantua F7, a Rio Grande one, which is kind of cool. It looks like everything's gone into the body of the locomotive, so I might need to find this thing a weight or something. I might have one laying around, but we'll have to look. And then there's also an Athearn Blue Box GP35 from the Burlington route in here. This is very clearly part of a locomotive. So right here, we clearly have some odd die-cast dummy. Then right here, it looks like we have the remains of a powered die-cast dummy. This one might have had, I don't know, zinc pest or something maybe, but I'll have to see if we can fix that thing. That'll be a fun project. Right here, I seem to have another Athearn band drive locomotive. This one, I believe, is an F7. I don't think I've ever worked on a band drive model that hasn't been one of those Hustlers, so that's kind of neat. It's also got a weird coupling setup. And then right here, we have a Tyco Power Torque, I believe also an F7. I don't think I've worked on one of these for Santa Fe. It looks like it's got some weird paintwork going on, but I've got a spare shell we might swap with that thing in the future. All right, then right here we have, I believe it's an Alco C630. I've had some of these in the past, but I'm pretty sure this one's actually a custom paint job. I don't believe Tyco actually made these things as like this Burlington Northern specific Spirit of 76 model, which is kind of cool. It also appears to have like 2 actual powered drive trucks, which is really weird. It's got some odd contact stuff going on, so I'm very curious to know what's going on with that model. Right here we have another Tyco Power Torque. This one's a Durango model. I don't think I've had any Durango locomotives in this paint scheme, which is kind of cool. Then also in this package, we have this kind of, like, I believe it's a newer Athearn RTR Jeep of some sort. I don't know exactly which exact Jeep it is, but it's kind of neat. I've got some other Burlington Northern Jeeps, so this one might need some new handrails and some other little detail work, but this one could actually be a nice model to go alongside my others. And I think this is the last package in this box.
Right here we have another interesting, I believe, unpowered dummy. This one on the inside I can see. I don't know if you can see from here, but it says Hobbytown in there. It's kind of a neat little piece. Then right here we have another Athearn Blue Box model. This one's another Rio Grande F7. So I've rearranged my setup and I counted all my locomotives. There are a total of 13 here and only 2 of them are dummies, which is actually a really good sign. So now I'm going to go through these things one by one. And first off, I'll start with this Athearn Athearn Rio Grande F7. This one seems to be the most normal. This is, I believe, an older era of Athearn Blue Box locomotive. It's still got your typical motor. You can see it's got gray flywheels instead of the typical brass ones. And the wheels don't have the little, I believe, the like square bearings that most of these have. So it's kind of neat. It's a little bit older. Something else that I have noticed about this is it seems really heavy, and I don't know if you can see it in there. It almost looks like there's one of those big weights in whatever I think they were the Super F7s were, but I think this is older than a Super F7. So I don't know if someone put that weight in there after the fact, or if this is a Super F7 just from an early era or something like that. If anyone knows, please do let me know. And then on the rear, we have this odd coupler setup. One of the other Athearn models in this lot has it too. We'll get to that in a little bit. But overall, this one seems to be in really good shape cosmetically. I don't think there's too much going on that needs addressing outside of just some basic work, but we haven't tested these things out yet. Moving from one Athearn to another, we have the Burlington GP35. This one, again, looks to be in really good shape. It, again, looks to be an older era Athearn with no crazy weight in there this time. Again, I don't really have much else to add. These are decent locomotives. I don't think this one should give me any trouble. And aside from a little scratching on the roof, it doesn't seem like there's many major noteworthy issues with this thing. It does seem to have all its handrails, and I think they're actually painted, which is kind of cool. Next up is the Power Torque Durango. This thing, despite being a little bit dusty, looks to be complete, about as complete as a Tyco can be. It's got all its handrails, which is really nice. The paintwork looks really good, aside from a few little defects up on the nose right here. But other than that, I think this one cosmetically just needs a cleaning. It's really complete. Next up is the tiny little Rio Grande Hustler. I've had a pair of yellow Hustlers in the past. I've never had any that are, I believe, lettered for any actual railroad. This one is, again, a little bit dusty. It's nothing too concerning. It's got horn hooks on both ends, but it is missing both of its bands. So if we test this thing out, the motor might start, but it won't move. I've definitely got some bands for these things laying around somewhere. I just need to find them, and then we can work on this thing, and it should be a really quick repair in a future video. And next up, we have the Power Torque F7. This one is a kind of interesting model. I don't believe the weight and side frames would likely be silver from the factory. I thought they would be gray or black or something like that. So I've got a suspicion that someone's done a little bit of paint work to this thing. There was also definitely some paint work done to the shell to remove all the Santa Fe lettering for some odd reason. But again, other than that, this seems to be a pretty complete model. It's got truck covers, it's got just about everything you could hope for with a Tyco. I am thinking in the future. I have had this Power Torque Tyco Conrail shell for ages. It's just been sitting around and I wanted to put it on a model. This shell is in kind of rough shape, so I'm thinking when we go to work on this thing, I could change out the shells and that would make it a pretty neat looking locomotive, especially with all the little silver painted details down here. Now we have the Athearn BNSF unit, and this one is a little bit worse for wear than I expected. While I was looking at it, I did notice it actually says the locomotive model right there. It's a GP38-2. Again, at first this thing looked to be really nice. On the back, there is a little bit of damage here. It's missing this rear step, so I might be able to replicate that. I might need to get a new shell or something, but it's not the end of the world. Worst case scenario, this thing will still be a good running model. It is missing 2 of its side frames. For some reason on these RTR models, they seem to like falling off really frequently. It's also missing a lot of the handrails. A lot of these Athearn RTR handrails I find to be pretty flimsy, so that's not too surprising. But since this is an RTR model, I do think it has a good chance at running. I did just notice, though, that the drive shafts are missing. I have not taken the shell off, but all the clips are broken until now. So I don't think this one's going to run. I don't know why all the drive shafts are missing. I think I can probably make something up for that in the future, but that'll be another project for me to work on. Next up, we have the switcher, which for now I will call an Alco S2, and you can yell at me if I'm wrong for this. This one is definitely a custom painted model. As you can see on the underbody here, it was green, so I'm pretty sure this was a Burlington Northern model at some point in its past life. It's a really neat looking piece. The paintwork on this thing is actually really good. Again, it's not entirely perfect, but for a model like this, I actually think it looks great. On one end of this, what's kind of weird, they have a easy mate coupler, and it's actually got a really nice pilot down on the back of the model. The cab detail work, just about everything on here looks kind of nice for an old AHM RSO model. On the front, there's not all that much pilot detail, but we have a Katie, which is mounted really oddly with a piece of wood, so I might go and change that for, I don't know, maybe some styrene or something. We'll see though. This one's probably going to be a really nice model. I do need to fix this bell because it's kind of falling over. But yeah, this one actually looks nice. They also painted the wheel faces, so they're actually red to look a little bit rusty, and that's kind of neat. Now we have the other Athearn band drive model, and this one's in slightly better shape than the other one is. This one actually has some of its bands. They seem to be in really rough shape, and they don't seem to be doing very much, but they are present. Everything on this one looks to be complete. The paintwork looks almost brand new. It's again got the same weird coupling system I talked about earlier, and other than that, I don't have too much to note about this thing. I think it should hopefully be a pretty simple project, but we'll have to find out. Next up, we have the first of the dummies, this Hobbytown model. I don't remember exactly what model of Alco switcher this is. I do know that this is a very distinct cab, I believe that was rebuilt at some point, but it's a really neat looking piece. I think the paintwork on it, while it's not perfect, is actually pretty good. I like the handrails up on the front and the sides here, and I think maybe if I can find a powered drive for this thing at some point, this would be pretty cool to have as a powered model. Again, I don't have much more to add on to it. It does have horn hooks, and they actually seem pretty springy. It does have some interesting axles on there, but for now it'll be pretty functional as a dummy. Next up, we're moving on to one of the models that I think got damaged just a little bit in shipping. This is the Rio Grande Mantua F7. And just looking this thing over, it definitely needs a little bit of work. I think this truck just kind of popped out of place. It's not going to be that difficult to fix whatsoever. It seems like it's got everything in there as well. I don't think any wires are broken or anything like that. Cosmetically, the horns are there, just about everything's there, excluding the weight. So I'll need to see if I can replicate a weight somehow. If I've got a model or a spare part laying around or something, I'll have to figure it out. Maybe I could try and build something out of styrene and use some wheel weights to act as a weight. Something else interesting is they have, I believe, drilled out the rivets on the rear Mantua truck and replaced them with these pretty oversized screws. So it's also another interesting Mantua model for me to dig into, even though I've been working on a ton of these recently. Next up is a model I think is actually really cool, which is the Tyco C630. I really, really do like the paintwork on this thing. I think it turned out really nicely from whoever did it. I like the striping on the front, that's really cool. You can see some of the paint strokes on the cab and the body of the locomotive, but overall, this is actually a really nice looking paint job. When I was looking at the listing, I almost for a split second thought this was factory paintwork, which up close you can clearly see it isn't. You can see where the decals have a slightly yellowed background. They've also painted the fuel tank and the sides of the trucks, but this is a really neat looking piece. It's got all its couplers and everything. Even the handrails are painted and put nicely into place. It's really cool. And also, I mentioned this when we were going through it, it seems like it has two powered drives in here, which Tyco definitely never did from the factory. So I'm curious to see if this thing will run, what sort of craftsmanship went into this thing, and what work is actually going to be required to make it a good model. Now we've got the second dummy of the lot, which is this interesting die-cast model. I believe this is actually a Lindsay model. I'm not entirely sure though. This one, looking at it, is in better shape than the powered unit by just a little bit. I've got a couple of thoughts with these things. We'll get more into that when we get to the other one. The coupler on this thing seems to be really weirdly mounted. This truck can pivot pretty freely. It looks like there's a little bit of zinc rot or something going on right in there, so that those weights might need a little bit of work. This truck here also does not seem to pivot very well whatsoever, and this rear coupler is kind of weird. So this one is just a dummy unit. It might end up going along with the project of the other one, which we'll see in just a second. And then right here we have the model that definitely got damaged in shipping, although I'm not sure if it was the shipper's fault, because you can see most of this is already starting to crack. So I'm pretty sure this was just really weak metal. So if we flip this thing over, you can actually see on the bottom, well, I don't know how well you can see it, but on this truck here, it's upside down, but it says Lindsay. I've never had a Lindsay model. It looks to be a really weird drivetrain, especially this motor truck, so I'm kind of curious to see how this will all work out. It looks like we actually have almost all the parts, so I could potentially glue this back together. But kind of what I'm thinking is I could swap the shells around between these things, use this shell from the dummy here as the powered locomotive shell, and then try and see if I can glue all this back together. I'm also just kind of looking at the dummy. I'll bring this back over here. It seems like there's a lot of gap between the side of the model shell and where the actual drive sits in there. So I'm wondering if it would be possible to reinforce this thing, not with like any just super glue, but with some pieces of styrene on the sides just to hold everything together. Again, this will be a pretty big project. I'm probably going to have to wait to fix this thing until my semester of school is over, but when I get around to it, this will actually be a really fun project to try and fix up. So now that we've gone through all these things, let's see if they actually run. The seller claimed that none of these models did, and we'll see if that's true or not. Alright, so now it's time to test these models out. We're going to just go one by one. I don't really have an exact order. We're going to start with the model that seems the most beat up, which is this FA. And that's actually shocking. This one moves. And it's even got a headlight. So that one's probably just going to need a lot of cosmetic work. I'll give it some mechanical work and whatnot as well. But that's actually shocking. I was definitely not expecting that to run. Next up is the Mantua Rio Grande F7, which is kind of falling apart. And this one also runs. Next up is the little band drive Hustler. Again, all the bands are broken off this thing. So if anything, the motor would start, but there's a really high chance nothing could happen here. And I don't know if you could hear that, but the motor was clearly running. It does seem to be slightly shorting out the track, so there's definitely some weird electrical stuff going on in this thing. It definitely needs a good amount of work. Next up is the C630, which appears to have two Tyco power torque drives. So clearly it's moving, but not very much. That one's going to need a lot of work. Next up is the power torque Santa Fe F7. And this one is really sluggish, but it is moving. So that is a good sign. It just needs probably a good cleanup, a good commutator cleaning especially. And I think after that, this thing should run pretty well. Now we have the Athearn GP35 setup, the Burlington model, and we'll give this one some power. And that definitely doesn't sound very good. There's some pretty big mechanical issues going on with this thing. That'll need some addressing. Next up is the custom painted Rio Grande AHM switcher. I'm giving it full power. Currently there's nothing. That was something. Go the other way. So clearly it's running, but it does not seem to have very much traction. I don't know if it's missing a traction tire or something, if there's something weird going on with the wheels, but there's definitely something I need to work on there. Next up, it's the Athearn Rio Grande F7, not a Santa Fe model like I said earlier. And this one just got a headlight on. I'll reverse the direction, see if that changes anything. Now we've got a humming motor, and nothing going forwards, and a humming motor in reverse. So this thing's definitely got some issues. Next up is the Santa Fe Band Drive F7. This one does have its bands, although they do not seem to be gripping the wheels very well. So we'll see if this thing even moves. Clearly it started, that was full power, and that did not seem like the motor revved up high enough. We'll go in reverse. There the motor sounds a little bit better, but that'll definitely need some maintenance. And finally we have the BNSF GP38-2. Again, if this one does even start, it's not going to move because it doesn't have any drive shafts, but we'll see if it does anything. This is full power. And it just got a short circuit. And somehow I nearly forgot to test the Durango model. I'll give this thing some power. And I heard something very briefly from the motor. So clearly it's picking up power. It was moving a little bit, but it will also need some work, and that's a wrap on testing all the engines. So as you can see, all these models are going to need some work. Even though we've got a few runners, there's definitely issues going on with all of them. So almost all of these engines will likely be up in upcoming videos. If you want to see any of these worked on sooner, please let me know, and I will try and get whatever project you want done as soon as I can. But for the questionability of this lot, which again I paid $100 for, I don't think I even mentioned that, I think I actually made off really well. There's going to be quite a few fun projects in here.